Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. The Alzheimer's Foundation is offering screening for people who are interested in knowing what the condition of their brain is. Chuck Fuschillo is head of the Alzheimer's Foundation.
Chuck Fuschillo, President and CEO of the Alzheimer's Foundation of America.
And how long have you been with that foundation then, sir?
I've been there 6.5 years.
Mm-hmm. And what was your initial interest in going there?
Well, I was a former New York State Senator for 16 years, very active in healthcare initiatives. When the opportunity came up to take my experience on a national level, I left the Senate to become the President and CEO of the Foundation.
Okay. Could you give us a thumbnail sketch of what the Foundation does on a routine daily basis that helps to fulfill or strive toward fulfilling the mandate that it has been given or has taken on?
So the Foundation was founded approximately 20 years ago by a caregiver who in the 80s and 90s was caring for his mom, and there was little support or places to go for guidance counseling. When his mom passed away in the 90s, he really thought hard on how he can ensure that nobody goes on this journey alone. So AFA is there every single day. We're a national organization. Our helpline is staffed by licensed social workers that are dementia-specifically trained. We want to ensure that nobody goes on this journey alone.
Is there only a central headquarters, or do you have some outreach programs in the sense of chapters or things of that nature in states?
We have approximately 3,000 member offices nationwide, so we have a national network of providing care and support for caregivers and individuals living with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. Okay,
so is it correct to assume that you have a number of different support services for those who are involved in the caregiving or in the family relationship with someone that's been diagnosed, tentatively at least, with Alzheimer's?
Our programs and support right now, because of the pandemic, are all virtual, 7 days a week. Our helpline is 7 days a week. Our national network helps more than 2 million people on a daily basis.
What did it look like in that regard before the pandemic came along?
Before the pandemic, we held educational and services programs throughout the entire country where people had the opportunity to go for therapeutic programs, go to support groups. But now that the pandemic has come and there's been a stay-at-home, all our programs are virtual. We've had over 350,000 people that have viewed our programs through our social media since March 17th. We have put on more than 150 virtual programs and webinars and educational conferences.
Are those usually programs that last, up to an hour or so of that sort, or do they vary somewhat depending on the purpose of the specific encounter in that virtual way?
Generally, the therapeutic programs are for an hour. Individuals can go to our website, which is alzfdn.org, to see all the events that are scheduled.
Thank you for referencing that, and then we'll have further opportunities along the way in the next several minutes to repeat that again for people. Generally speaking, what is a thumbnail description of what Alzheimer's actually is? People have gotten, I think, used to in the last several decades, perhaps hearing the name, even if there was no support services until your founder came along and got busy with that. When I was growing up, and I'll be 65 shortly, people were spoken of as having hardening of the arteries or senility or kind of generic, vague, not really very helpful, not very descriptive names for people who viewed the world in a certain given generic sort of way.
There's always the question, what's the difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia? Alzheimer's disease is a disease. Dementia is not a disease. It's a terminology that's used as a combination of intellectual factors. Alzheimer's disease itself is a progressive brain disorder that impacts an individual's memory, thinking, and language skills and the ability to carry out simple tasks. It's the most common form of dementia, and dementia is used to describe a combination of symptoms such as loss of memory, judgment, and other intellectual functions.
Mm-hmm. I think the first time I encountered the concept myself was back probably in the winter or early in the year of 1983 when I was dating someone at the time, and we went out on a date, and one of the things we did before we spun off to our own activity in New Haven was to pick up her grandfather and take him to a nursing home where his wife was located. And I think I heard the term Alzheimer's disease for the first time that day. And I think I had to ask, what is that? I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, but back in the 80s and 90s, there was very little education, diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. You know, people used terms back then that we would never use today. Mm-hmm. You know, the awareness and the education has increased greatly, and that's why we were founded. We were founded because of somebody who was caring for his mom in the 80s and 90s and had no place to turn to for help.
I think it was maybe 20 years ago, perhaps, was the time when in this studio I'm sitting in right now, I sat across the table from someone from your organization in the local level sense, and a husband who had a wife who had gone into what was referred to as early onset Alzheimer's. I think she was only in her early 50s at that time, and had only been diagnosed a couple of years before that. And to hear an earful, in a good way, in the sense of going from being relatively uneducated to having a better, though not complete, understanding. The concept of someone that early, in relatively speaking, in life, being faced by Alzheimer's, really blew me away personally that day. You know,
Alzheimer's does not discriminate against age, sex, creed, religion. It's one of those diseases that can affect everybody. We've worked with families whose loved ones have been in their early 30s who have developed it. Now, there are different stages. There's early, which is mild. There's middle, which is moderate. And there's late, which is severe. You know, if you met somebody who had early onset in that stage, individual may forget words or misplace objects, forget something they just read, repeat the same question over and over, and not even remember names when meeting new people. You know, but one of the things we love to emphasize is that if you see changes in moods and behavior of somebody and they're forgetting things of current events, you know, my best suggestion is pick up the phone, call the AFA helpline at 866-232-8484, and speak to one of our licensed social workers that is dementia specifically trained. They can help individuals.
What kind of a relationship does your organization have with medical facilities who may be doing research, for instance, or running trials on medications intended to help slow down the progression of the disease as it goes along? Do you have those kind of working relationships?
So we're very proud of the fact that the Alzheimer's Foundation of America has its own medical, scientific, and memory screening advisory board, and this board is composed of leading experts in care, research, and the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. We also fund research all over the United States, as far as and even as far out of the country to Israel.
So that's quite a reach.
Yeah, you know, our core model is education to empower people, our care to make sure that people have a support system, and research. When research is the hope, and we fund research for better treatment and a cure currently as we talk.
Yeah. Something's going on right now that your organization is sponsoring and for which I received word about. I understand that your organization is offering to do some level of virtual or remote screening for people who would like to have a better grasp of where they may be on the continuum of awareness to lessened awareness or now failing awareness. Could you describe for people what that is, what it's called, and maybe how it works, obviously?
Sure. It's one of our signature programs. It's a national memory screening program that's been in existence for more than 10 years, and we have screened more than 5 million people nationwide since the pandemic. We have an online screening now that individuals can go to our website, which is alzfdn.org. But most recently, now every Monday and Wednesday, we're offering virtual screening.
Chuck Fuschillo from the Alzheimer's Foundation is my guest on the WIHS Journal today, and he'll be back tomorrow. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. That's 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of the station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal from 104.9 FM, WIHS.